Can you see my screen now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I'm calling it Preventing Bird Window Collisions. So I wanted to talk about this because if you've been out to the refuge lately, you've seen our little dots on our windows.
Mm-hmm.
This was years in the planning before we got this done. I mean, it was brought up a long time ago, and then I think it was about 2 years ago we started really talking about it. And last year we finally had some money in the budget because we were all closed down. We weren't spending as much as normal, so we had some money for that. So we bought some of this window material, and then this year we actually got a grant to get more of it, and we were able to rent a scissor lift to apply some of it to the upper windows. So I'm just going to share some of the information that we got when we were looking into this, what options there are. And we've had a lot of people ask about where we got it and what it is. And I just thought I'd share some other options, things you can do at home. So there's, I don't know if you're all seeing that. The big problem is there's it's estimated up to 1 billion birds per year are killed in the United States through window collisions. And this is kind of an estimate. I think their estimate is from like 500 million to 1 billion. So, you know, it's still a lot. And it's, you know, there's big skyscrapers that have a lot of windows that cause a lot of bird deaths, but there's not as many of those as there are residential buildings that are, you know, scattered everywhere, which might not have as high a rate of window collisions, but since there's just so many, then a lot of birds just hit people's windows. And so you might only have a handful on your house, but if every other house in the whole country has a handful, that adds up. And the problem is that birds can't see, they don't have any concept of what glass is. They see the reflection, they're trying to go through it. Or, you know, if there's windows on the other side and they can see straight through the building, they don't know that there's something there that they can't fly through. So just the whole concept, and because they're small and they're flying, they can just crash into it and get killed. So it can happen at any time of year, but the peak times are obviously during the migration, especially in the fall when there's a lot of young birds migrating for the first time. So that just the population of birds is higher. So a lot of birds flying around. And then another thing that increases the problem is light pollution, and that birds are disoriented by the lights and they're attracted to lights. So they will run into lights in buildings, in cities, and just in anywhere they see a light. So some of the things to consider if you're thinking about doing something on your windows is, you know, one of the things is obviously the main thing is how effective it is, but how long it's going to last, what it looks like, and how easy it is to see through, for you to be able to see out the window, but also you want to make sure that the birds see it from the outside. How you install it, and of course probably the most important thing for a lot of people is how much it costs. And just in general, anything applied should be to the outside of the windows. It's going to be a lot more effective in breaking up that reflection. I know they have a lot of decals and stuff that people put on the inside of the windows, and that's gonna maybe prevent the bird from hitting right where that is, but they could go around it, and they might not even be able to see it if they're if all they see is the reflection. And you can kind of see there's a lot of window pictures in this presentation, but you can see that the outside is showing, you know, you can see trees and things reflected in the windows. But even these, you know, I don't know what this grid pattern in the window will help a little bit. It just creates more of a visible barrier that the birds might be able to tell is there. So one of the things is if you have screens on your windows, especially if they're on the outside of the windows, that helps the window become more visible. And the birds, if they do hit it, it's going to soften the impact a little bit. So, but usually those are pretty visible. But as you can see, I mean, you know, if you're looking through a screen, you can still see outside with no problem. But if you try to look through, for people like me, you have bird feeders or whatever, you try to look through the screen with binoculars, then the screen kind of in the way. So it does hinder your view a little bit. And it might not work for all windows. You know, if you have a big window that doesn't open, it probably doesn't have a screen on it. You might be able to retrofit something, but it doesn't always work. So one of the simple things is to paint the windows. This picture shows a painting of, you know, a scene, but you can even do something as simple as just painting little dots on it or lines or something. So just so it breaks up the reflection. And again, it's on the outside of the window, and there's different kinds of paints you can use. So it can be pretty easy to do. It depends on how many windows you have, I guess. But generally, for most treatments that you're applying to the window, you want to have like a 2-inch by 2-inch grid, because that's what will prevent birds from flying into it. So if it's more than 2 inches wide, then they think they can fly through it. They don't really see the impediment to their flight. There's different kinds of paints you can use. So depending on what you use, either it could be hard to remove, or it might peel off or come off with the weather and that kind of thing. So, and then of course, yeah, if you're looking through a picture painted on the window, you're not going to be able to see as well through the window. So it just depends on where it is and what you want to see out of it. So then the decals, this is the kind of thing that, well, this is what we did here. This is the visitor center. So they're spaced 2 inches by 2 inches, and they're just little dots. And it actually, when we were looking into the options, you know, we thought, well, you know, there's going to be dots all over the window. You can't see through that, but when you're looking through it, you really just see right between the dots. So it's not, it doesn't disrupt your view really. There's different patterns, there's designs. You can use, so the company we bought this from sells it in bulk. So it's probably not, I mean, the rolls that we got, I can't remember how many square feet it is, but it was a lot. So you probably don't want this for your home, but they do have a residential thing. Somebody's not muted and I can hear him. Anyway, they do have a residential product that I think is just a strip that you can apply to the windows, and it is the same kind of thing. It might be take a little longer to apply, but if you don't have as many windows as we do, it won't take as long. And you can also, so for decals, you can also use just some kind of tape. There's, you know, whatever kind of tape you have. It's just depending on the type of tape, it might not last that long. And these are the product we purchased is supposed to last 10 to 15 years. So it's pretty long lasting, and you can wash the windows. So of course, another option is stained glass. That's a lot more visible to birds because it's got the color in it. Stained glass looks nice, but it's not necessarily what you want to have in your house, and it probably costs a lot. Doesn't have the features that insulated glass and that kind of thing. So it'll reduce the visibility you have. And then there's different kinds of film. I think this is film, unless it's paint. But anyway, there's this kind of thing that's a pattern. But there's also some that's clear film that you can put on. But from what we understood, it does. It's harder to apply evenly because you want it to be smooth and not have wrinkles on it. And if you're applying a big sheet, that can be hard to do. And it also does reduce your visibility somewhat, even if it's clear. It's just gonna be sort of translucent. So that was the main reason we didn't choose this product for the Refuge. But they can be really effective, and they can look nice. I mean, this looks nice. I wouldn't want it on my house, but it does look nice. And then another really good option is the Zen Curtain, and it can be pretty inexpensive. I mean, there's a product you can buy, or you can make your own with just paracord and mount it on a strip of wood or something, and then you hang that in front of the window. So this works pretty well. You can still see through it, and between it, and the spacing is a little wider than the 2-inch, but because the reflection is also showing in the window, it ends up looking like there's twice as much of it as there is. So it does, it is pretty effective. It might not look as good. I mean, some people really like it. Just watching, they call it Zen Curtain. So if it blows in the wind, you can find that relaxing. It can get worn, I think, with time. I don't know how long they'll last, but it's a pretty inexpensive option. And then this is a bird-friendly glass, which is, comes already as part of the window. And I think it's like etched into the window, or maybe there's something like the product that we got that's already on the window when they install them. So, this is probably the high end in terms of cost, but for new constructions, especially if there's a lot of windows, this is an option. And it, so it's going to last as long as the glass is there. So then there's other things that you can do just to prevent bird collisions. If you can't do anything else, a lot of times it does help to close curtains or the blinds. That might reduce the reflection somewhat compared to just having the curtains open. Okay, don't wash your windows. See, that's pretty easy to do. So if you have dirty windows, they're not going to reflect as much. So it's just something to keep in mind. Try to reduce light pollution by turning off outside lights, especially during migration, and keeping your curtains closed at night during migration. And any outdoor lights, if they face down rather than up, that's going to cause less light pollution. And I just learned about this today. Oops, sorry. There's a website you can report bird collisions to. So that's something to consider if you see a bird that's been hit by a window or hit a window. And so we might try doing that at the Refuge. And then these are just other things you can do to help birds: buy bird-friendly coffee, keep cats inside, and plant native plants. I won't go into those anymore, but those are all things that can help. So in general, you can buy some products, or you can make some of them yourself. Usually vertical stripes should be 4 inches apart or less, with 2 inches preferred, and horizontal stripes 2 inches apart or less. And so you should be able to see the pattern from 10 feet away, just to make sure, you know, if you're outside looking at it, that it's visible, so the birds will see it. And like I said, just about anything is going to be more effective on the outside of the windows rather than inside. And this American Bird Conservancy website has a lot of information on how to prevent bird collisions. It has links to all these sites, so some products you can buy, and other information. And then there's also another organization called FLAP, which is in Canada, but it also has a lot of information on preventing bird strikes. And this picture here, most of these I just found on the internet, but this picture is of our window at my house. My husband actually did these. So we've had these up, and he was only going to put them up during migration and then take them down, but we left them up. We've had them up since last spring, and I'm so used to them, I don't even really notice them. It works pretty well. I don't think we've seen any birds strike any of these windows since he put it up. And you know, one benefit was, you know, is people that see it ask about it. And that's the same thing at the Refuge. People see it and they ask about it. So we had, you know, our new roof put on, and the roofer was asking what that's for, and was really interested. So those are just some of the things you can do. And if people have questions, I can try to answer them.